So I was at work a couple days ago, and there were these cups that you would write little messages on before you gave them out to people. There were these little styrofoam, there were small, medium, and larges, and you just write something inspirational on there. And the guy who was doing it was my manager. And I'd never met him before. So I'd come in on my first shift, I met him, and, I tried to connect with him. Perhaps I tried too hard. I don't know what. But I remember, trying to make a connection. I was putting myself out there, trying to gauge what he was like so we could form some kind of bond, because I feel like people work together a lot better when they can just be them. I just kind of feel like to be a successful business, you have to be a successful person. And in order to do that, you need to be able to bring others up and also just stay on the same level at the same time, that you guys are growing together. And so when I saw him writing on those styrofoam cups, after having, for the most part, ignored me, admittedly, we weren't really that busy. I don't think. I mean, we were a little busy, but then again, I'm suppose in his eyes, I'm just the newbie who doesn't really know all that much. No, that's true for the most part. I don't know how to do most of the prep. I don't really know where a lot of things go. I need to ask a lot of questions. But overall, I'm trying to gauge him as a person. So I was feeling pretty flat after he just kind of blew me off. I tried multiple times to conversate with him, and he just was not having it. And so whenever he goes to this cup and he writes, "You matter," I began to wonder, what does that even mean? Because clearly you're not showing that to your fellow person. And now, does this mean he's a heartless person? Of course not. But I feel like the idea of the mattering is vague, okay? Because it comes from, I feel like, an external source. Because I feel like you can only feel valuable when other people value you. And the only way to do that is if you value yourself. But what happens when that vulnerability that you give out is not retained, is not sent back to you in a connection? And really, the question of mattering is vague now. Because if I'm trying to be vulnerable and I'm trying to make this connection, and he, despite not really trying, wrote that, what does that signify in his mind? My manager's mind. It kind of put it in a sour spot in my chest, because when he writes that you matter, when it is not being conceived, then what is it? It's just a message. It's just letters. It's just words. And sure, we give words meaning, and that's how we make belief and stuff like that. But really, I felt dejected and I felt hurt. Sure, not everybody is for everyone, of course. But to not be able to share a little bit of banter back and forth is hurtful. And I'm sure he didn't mean that. I'm sure no one hopes to hurt other people. I'd like to hope, at least the good ones. So, I don't like to have prejudice, even though what I just said a second ago completely eliminates my thoughts. So, when someone says that you matter, what does that really mean? When they just write that on a cup, or they write, "You're an inspiration, you're a badass," You see all these books at the library that are telling you, "Oh, you're God's chosen. You're the brilliant master. You're the greatest of all time." And at what point do we have to keep telling ourselves to matter before we can just do it? Before we can help other people matter? Before we can help other people feel good about themselves? Now, of course, that's a pretty backwards kind of thing, because people should just feel good about themselves anyway. But because of the dejection that has happened, that I just experienced, that is why people feel like they're not worthy. And of course, I think to myself, why is this happening? Why do I feel like this? And now part of my ego is blaming him. I'm like, oh, why is he being such a selfish prick? Why is he not responding to me? Why isn't he doing that? And I don't know. That's a struggle. And maybe he was stressed. Maybe he woke up at the wrong side of bed and he's just been working for 4 hours already of his 8-hour shift, and he doesn't want to deal with a teenager trying to talk to him. And I guess in that point, yes, I see where he's coming from. But to not have a little bit of decency is a struggle. So when he writes "You matter" on that cup, does it really mean anything? I don't think so. Unless it is coming from a forth-giving person who truly believes that other people should matter, then you can write that. I suppose what I'm getting at is I've been hurt, in some sense, by attempting this connection, putting myself out there, and being thrown to the dogs, is really how I felt. So, I don't know. This was just kind of a continuous thought that I've been speaking out. And all in all, I felt dejected. So, I don't know. Hopefully that gives you something. But that's really it.